weeks. And we are here live with Mr. Anthony, or is it Anthony or Tony? Which one do you prefer?
Tony's fine.
Tony's fun. Okay, so Tony Aguilar, who is the whistleblower on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It's foundation, right? The GHF.
Yes.
And Janine is back from across the pond. She went to Cambridge and London. And did you go anywhere else fun?
Not really. Those were the two.
And so we definitely missed her, but we're back now. And so thank you so much for joining us today, Tony. And how's it going? How are you feeling? You've had a lot of attention. You're like, when we texted, you're like doing a new show every day, which is amazing because usually people get burnt out on this stuff. And you are like fueled. You're like going even faster now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will. I feel great, and I will keep going because the fact of the matter is that this is the, I spent 25 years of my life, all of my my adult years defending this country, energetically and with a lot of motivation, and that hasn't stopped. I truly feel that this isn't about politics. This isn't about pro this or anti that, or this is about humanity. This is being pro humanity. This is something that the world needs to recognize and understand, that it is absolutely unacceptable under no circumstances and without any justification to commit genocide, and then to enact that genocide through violence and starvation. But then furthermore, that the United States is a mechanism or an appendage within that starvation to achieve that genocide. That's not pro America, pro Israel, pro this or pro that. That's just called being pro humanity.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's my motivation behind it, is that there's nothing more patriotic than standing up for your country, and making people aware that otherwise don't know, for the values that your country was built upon. And for anyone that says that that's not patriotic, I would say go back and read the Constitution, because that's pretty much what it opens up with.
Right. Can you, I assume most of our viewers know who you are, but for the few who don't, can you give a little bit of background, like your,
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Anthony Aguilar, and I commissioned into the Army from West Point. I commissioned into the Army as an infantry officer, and I commanded an infantry platoon and an infantry company, and then I volunteered to try out to go to selection for special forces, and I was selected. And so late 2008, I became a Green Beret, and I spent the rest of my career as an Army Special Forces officer, as a Green Beret. Throughout my career, both coming into the infantry and as a Green Beret, I deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Tajikistan, the southern Philippines, in the fight against the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. A lot of people don't know that we have an ongoing campaign in the southern Philippines, in the Moro Islands, and I've deployed so many places, and I found myself upon retirement that I was very content with retirement. I just got out of the Army about 5 months ago. And upon my retirement, I was committed to not doing anything for 8 months or so. My goal was in the fall, start school, use my GI Bill that I've never used, and use it for school, and just be a college student. That was my goal. So I told myself for the first 8 months, I'm not going to do anything. And then in May, I got a phone call and ended up in Gaza.
Did you have views on the conflict, as I guess some people would call it that, between Palestinians and Israelis prior to your experience in Gaza?
Prior to going to Israel and prior to my actual on-the-ground eyewitness experience in Gaza, I was very much pro-Israel, very much what I would even consider like an Israel fanboy. That the IDF was the best army in the world. That we should strive to be like them. That they do everything right and they're amazing. And the United States Army, in a way, kind of reinforces that narrative that the IDF is this amazing force. And I've been reflecting on that because I've asked myself over the last couple months in terms of my original opinions and thoughts as to why did I come to that opinion. And because when I deployed to Afghanistan, when I deployed to Iraq, when I was in Syria and all these other places that I've been where the United States and our allies and the coalition is fighting against terrorism, not once did I ever see someone from IDF or an Israeli army there. So they really only take care of themselves, and they really only care about themselves. And they, when you think about, I then came to learn very much so that they, when you look, it's kind of like that notion of never meet your heroes, or when you look behind the curtain and you see the reality of it. It was shocking and surprising to me, the reality that I then saw. And not only it wasn't even a slow process of like trying to of that opinion shifting. It was pretty abrupt, because it's like wow, you are not what everybody has conveyed to be, and neither is Israel.
You are not the most moral army in the world. You actually conduct yourselves in a way that if American soldiers acted like this, they would all be at Leavenworth, right?
As a commander who from a second lieutenant at the age of 22 up until my last command as a battalion commander, had I had soldiers in combat that acted in the way of the IDF soldiers and officers that I observed and worked with, I would have court-martialed them.
Yeah.
So can you, I mean, again, I think a lot of our viewers know what you've said, but for the few who don't, can you describe, go ahead.
Real quick, I thought that we could go over, and I'm sorry if you guys can hear my hound dog, if we could go over the exact setup, to the extent that you can, of what these GHF stations are like. So for people who don't know, perhaps, I know I have some followers that, they put up with my anti-Israel stuff because they like my campaign finance stuff, and they might be watching this, right? And they might be open to listening. So something that people need to know is, number one, going into this situation, sorry to speak for you, Tony, but there had been a 6-week blockade. Total blockade on all aid. Actually, it was longer than that, 10-week blockade, because it was started on March 3rd and it went until May 28th, I believe, was the first day that you all went into operation. So
yes.
Right. And so what happened during that time was Israel basically just said, we're going to do full siege. You're not allowed to have nothing. They didn't let anything in. They didn't let a single thing into the strip, right? So when they reach the
you're explaining that, I'm going to grab my map so I can.
Of course, great. Yeah.
When you turn it over to me, I can help, because what you're explaining is super important, and I want to be able to show people that. So I'm going to grab my map real quick.
So when they got to the point of famine, and the world just started, pressurizing, all of the food had ran out, all of the reserves had ran out, and finally they said, okay, we're going to set up our own aid stations. What happened was the UN, they brought the UN in. The UN has all of these stations. I believe at one time they had 400 aid distribution centers in the strip, which again is only 26 miles long and 6 miles wide. Very small area, but they had 400, which again, when you're serving 2 million people, this is what you need. And but what happened was they brought in this GHF, which was, I've done some digging on this organization itself. It was, well, I take that back. I've done some digging on UG Solutions, which is who Tony was contracted through, which is a whole different thing. But so this aid organization, it's kind of this brainchild of these psycho-Zionists in the Trump administration and outside of it, right? And they want to essentially partner with the IDF and use the aid stations as bait, okay? They want to, and this is why they have starved Hamas out. They're essentially trying to starve them out, and then they were going to use the aid distribution as a way to lure people in, right? The UN said, no, we will not participate in this. This is a violation of international law. You cannot use food as bait, right? So the UN was like, we're out. And so then it was just left to this kind of new organization that had just formed to essentially distribute food to 2 million people, right? And so they set up 4 distribution centers. Again, we had UN had 400, GHS has 4, okay? And then they contract with a third-party group, GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, contracts with a third-party group called UG Solutions, which is out of North Carolina. It was started by a former Green Beret who I believe was not retired.
He only spent about 8 years in the Army.
Okay, right.
Not even close to retiring.
This guy is a little questionable. I'm not gonna say too much because I haven't been able to prove. But what I was collecting things, there were like giant alarm bells that when you start to look into these people, especially because I'm from Fayetteville, I've kind of seen this character around. I know what these guys, I know how they are, and there were some questionable things about like the home that he lives in. It's like $2 million. How does a soldier afford a $2 million home right out the gate, after he apparently leaves the military? Very questionable. Could have been wife's money, I don't know, but that was very interesting to me when I started digging on it. Anyways, UG Solutions starts up and they accept this contract in January during the ceasefire. They're already operating in Gaza at this time, and then they kind of get shifted over to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And that is when, Tony, you get a call saying, hey, do you want to come do this, right? And it's really good money, okay? It's like sorry to put your business out there, but it's like a 10 grand signing bonus, and then it's a little over $1,000 a day, I believe, right? And
so in it varied in terms of pay, but like the $10,000 signing bonus was what was offered for the original contract. But in my case, they were paying us $1,320 a day.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. If you stay on a year contract, you break $1 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So of course these guys, I don't blame anybody for jumping on it, and they're going for guys like Tony, right? Like the guys that are former Green Berets, former SF, and they can bring them in. And you guys but were you given actual weapons?
Oh yes.
Okay, so you were brought in, but the interesting thing to me is that you were not brought in on a diplomatic visa, which would have given you immunity. Okay, and I think that was done on purpose. I do think that was part of their strategy to keep you quiet, right? Because if you broke the law, you wouldn't have protection in any way. But so they bring you in on this visa, and you're charged with protecting 4 aid sites, correct?
Yes.
Now you go.
Yeah. So again, like you had mentioned in the beginning, the UN mechanism, there were 400 sites. So this is, if this is Gaza, these blue,
perfect. Yeah.
These, all the blue dots, those are the
pull it out just a little bit. Perfect.
Yeah.
So there's
all of the blue dots throughout all of Gaza are the UN sites. These sites right here, these are now all that remain. The 3 here. That's it.
Wow.
So that's what that looks like now in terms of, when it went to this, to now you have 3 sites here, and 1 site up here near central Gaza, near the central corridor, which is now closed. This site's closed. So all that exists are these 3 here. And when you look at how many sites that there were before, and what the...
Can you pull that back up again real quick? Because I want to identify the cities that people will have heard.
Yes. So here's Jabalia.
Okay.
Here's Gaza City. Right now in Gaza City, this is where the Israeli offensive is taking place right now to clear Gaza.
Just so everyone knows, it is 100% under siege right now. They were dropping white phosphorus in Gaza City last night, committing war crimes last night. All right. But all of northern Gaza is just cut off.
Yep.
It is, okay? So now your first site is below that line, which he has.
So this line right here is what's called the Netzarim corridor. It's a military corridor that the IDF control, to where once this was established. So you had mentioned that during in January, during the ceasefire, when UG Solutions was hired initially, they were hired by the Israeli government to provide security at this corridor as a checkpoint for people that were being allowed back into Gaza City. No one could leave, but back into Gaza City. And then when the ceasefire ended, and the ceasefire ceased, they then closed this off. So during that time, since mid-March, nobody has been able to leave Gaza City. Nobody's gone in. Nothing's gone in. No aid, no water, no medical supplies. This area has been completely shut off since mid-March. One of the sites that we had out of the 4 original sites was right here, where there's a pretty predominant wadi that crosses across Gaza here. It's called Wadi Gaza. And then there's a road that goes from Egypt straight through Gaza all the way into Israel, and that's called the Salah ad-Din Road. So this site right here was at the intersection of the Wadi and Salah ad-Din Road, about 2 kilometers south of the Netzarim. So this, like I said, this site is now closed because of the operations. And what's surprising is that this site that's now closed, the IDF took over that, and it's a sniper location now.
Right. Okay. So now you're saying we're down to 2 distribution sites.
Three.
Okay, so 3. Yep. They're all located in southern Gaza.
Yep.
From what I can understand, their military strategy, which is just, you said that you kind of have this idea that, the IDF is so brilliant, and part of that really is a part of their propaganda to kind of make themselves seem invincible, that they can't be beaten, right? And it's a long strategy that they've had. But what I think we've seen is that they're actually not that brilliant. Most of their plan is just dropping bombs. They're just going to carpet bomb until people surrender, right? Until there's just so much pressure. And so it seems to me that they've kind of essentially gone back to a full siege on northern Gaza, and then these kind of what are I'm trying not to curse, these insane setups in Gaza, where, from what I understand, or not from what I understand, what I've read in The Guardian and The Intercept, they have distribution sites or some times each day, correct? They have boxes of aid that they put out into an open field, essentially. They announce the time that the aid distribution center will open on Facebook, on Telegram, on WhatsApp. They put this out, and then people have to rush, essentially, once it opens, to get as much aid as they possibly can carry, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so, which is an insane way to do things, but this is, again, like we said earlier, they're trying to draw Hamas out. They're trying to use the aid to draw Hamas out. So that's the idea, right? And then when they open up these distribution centers, they're only open for about an average, The Guardian had it an average of 11 minutes. So it's just this free-for-all, running, grabbing anything you absolutely can, right? So number one, this system is set up to favor the strong, the men, correct? They are then employing or deploying facial recognition on the people rushing into these sites. And then they are using live fire on men that they have identified or they believe are Hamas. It is straight up Hunger Games psycho craziness, right? Unbelievable that an American organization is helping to facilitate this. And so now you have been brought in along with UG Solutions. You're part of this contract that you guys are kind of set up at the periphery, right? Now you're not charged with targeting the suspected Hamas people, but you are charged with kind of like, I think you guys were actually just being used personally as
Yes.
cover for
Yes.
the IDF to commit murder, right? I think that's the entire purpose of the contract is to kind of give this to give cover
veneer of respectability,
right, exactly,
or of
exactly.
like, yeah.
So
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. I'm trying to create a visual for people so they can see, like, this is the way this is set up. So it's a very short burst every single day. Now, your story that you brought out, and you were talking about a little boy. His name was Amir, right? Who you encountered him, I believe, on the first or second day. It was
28 May, the second day of distribution.
Okay, so as I just described, you guys understand now that these people are rushing in. Now you got to think about a child. A child rushing in has almost no chance of getting any real food.
And
right?
These are all people who are starving, right?
These are all people. These are just regular people, but they've been put into this kind of survival of the fittest contest. And now this little boy comes in and he's rushing. And he's only able to grab like a broken bag of rice, I believe it was, right? That had fallen. And that was all he could gather because, of course, he's a child and he can't compete against all these other people, these men that can.
Yeah, so the way the sites are, so a couple things to unpack there. That I agree with the assessment that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and then the contract method of safe reach solutions and UG solutions are simply camouflage, a cover to give the perception that aid is being delivered, but it is not, and as a means for the IDF to show the international community that hey, we're providing aid. Well, they use that as a mechanism to further progress the agenda of just killing everyone. It's almost like a twofer for them because they continue the starvation. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is starving the population. Two, it achieves their plan of the internal displacement, and this is actually what's happening right now today on the ground at these distribution sites. So if you look at this map again up here, like here's northern Gaza shut off. Everybody that lived north of the wadi between Gaza, between the edge of Gaza City, the Netzarim corridor, and the wadi, everybody in this little corridor was pushed south to these internally displaced persons camps. Mawasi camp, Rafah camp, Nasser camp, Khan Yunis camp, the big tent cities you see on the news, these giant cities of white tents. So here in the Magan Oz corridor, this is completely blocked off. No Palestinians live or in here. It's all a militarized area for supporting operations. Then you have this area here, which is the entire southern portion south of the Marag corridor to the Egyptian border. This has all been leveled to the ground, destroyed. This is all under Israeli control. So the only place that Palestinians are actually living is in central Gaza, which is primarily tents, camps, encampments that have been set up. And then those that have been isolated in the north. So what was happening through distribution. So as it was explained to us when we first got on the ground, because I had a lot of questions in terms of why aren't we delivering water? Why are we delivering so little aid? Why are the sites here in an active offensive combat area instead of it, like, why not put them over here where the area is secured and there's no combat going on? Why not put them over here along the coast where the camps are, where there's no combat going on? Why not put them somewhere where the people are? So what was explained to me was that under the greater Gaza Humanitarian Foundation project, as part of the IDF's overall mission in Gaza, phase 1, establish the sites, get them up and running, get them operational, and test them. Phase 2, open the sites, bring aid in so that, and here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that if I'm living here, let's say I'm here at Dirbala camp, this is where I live, and I'm told that site number 1 is going to have aid that day starting at noon. and I make my journey down to go to the site. Well, to get to site 1, 2, or 3, I have to cross the Morag corridor. I have to cross it. When I cross the Morag corridor, I can't go back. Can't go back home. So these sites were set up as on.
So
hold on just a second, Tony. Hold on.
Your audio stopped for some reason.
Hold on, just 1 second. Hold on.
I think he
audio.
has a...
This has never happened to us before. What a...
Sorry, guys.
Interesting. Sorry, guys. Just 1 second.
It's alive. What can you do?
Well, there's sometimes. Hold on. Let's see. Of course.
Looks.
Yeah. Isn't that convenient, that time that he's explaining this very important thing, all of a sudden it just stops, right? We all know. So Tony's left, and hopefully, well, he's going to come right back.
Yeah.
We all know what just happened there. Nobody questions that.
I mean,
I'm just lost
we
patience
don't
with
know.
these people. I know. All right. All right. Let's see, Tony.
I should be back.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
but
are.
now you're
We
flipped.
lost.
Yep.
We lost you for. We lost your audio.
I don't know, like it just totally dropped everything in the middle of my sentence, but
now you're turning
so
a little
you're
sideways.
there you go.
There we go.
No.
Perfect. Well,
Okay.
kind of. Yep. Now you're upright.
No.
I'm trying to get it to go back to the normal way.
Yeah.
I know. It's okay. Take your time. No pressure. What you're saying is fascinating. It's so. Yeah.
So, can y'all see me again now? Am I back?
Yeah, your connection is not great.
It's okay. I think for some reason it's like when we first started.
Yeah.
Reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah. It's okay. Take your time.
Okay.
Let's see.
Can y'all at least hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, I know what's going on. I know exactly what's going on.
But so as I was saying, with where the sites are, this is completely inaccessible. Once you come south, you're stuck. You don't get to go back home. You're sent to one of these 3 camps. So effectively, phase 2 of the IDF operation, where the GHF was a critical component of that, would be bring all the Palestinians south, displace them out of the central part. Remember, in the north, nobody can come out of the north, so that's isolated. The south is isolated. So really the focus is on the central part of Gaza.
Right.
So with the help of the GHF, bring everybody here down to get aid. Remember that Site 4 is now closed. So the only places to come now is here. So in phase 2, bring as many Palestinians south to the camps and get them out of the central part. Phase 3, which is happening right now, which corresponds to Operation Gideon's Chariots 2, which is the operation that's ongoing in Gaza City, is that now as the IDF push north, push the survivors, anybody surviving the bombing campaign and the starvation, God knows who's still alive, push them south to join everybody in the camps and finish the plan, finalize this area down here where GHF site number 1 was always intended from the beginning. And I know this because when I first went to site number 1 on the 24th of May for our tour, kind of our reconnaissance to see the sites, site number 1 is so large that you can fit 2, 3, and 4, if you were to put them together, you could fit all of that onto Site 1. Site 1 is massive. And and I asked that question from the very beginning. Why Site 1 is so big? It's very hard to secure, very hard to control. Why is it so big? We need to make it smaller. Nope, it's this big because they even told us day one that in phase 3, this will be the site where the humanitarian assistance transit area will be housed, where it will begin for phase 3, when all of the Palestinians are brought south to live in this area. And I was like, so things that I heard on the news with the plan to displace all the Palestinians from north central to the south and then live in these encampments in the south, that's true? Yeah, that's what we're doing. So right now, what's happening as we speak, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is preparing to be the agent, the receiving agent for all of the Palestinians that are going to be pushed out of these camps. So these large white tent villages, I said, they're going to be pushed out of there and pushed to the south into this new camp in the south around site number 1 as the main humanitarian area. That's a concentration camp. By definition of a concentration camp, that's exactly what that is. They're going to concentrate the entire population of Gaza to the south in encampments that is not near or anywhere close to where they've lived, destroy the rest of the infrastructure. All of central Gaza, Rafah, central Gaza, is destroyed. It's you can't live there. It is an unlivable environment. In the north, the bombing that's going on that you see daily with the bombing and the white phosphorus and the attacks, there will be nothing left of the north. There is no place left to go once they move them all to the south. They are concentration camps. And who's going to be guarding those concentration camps? GHF. The way I described this a couple times now is that if I had the artistic ability to draw a political cartoon, I would draw a cartoon of Palestinians being forced into a concentration camp, Bibi Netanyahu sitting there with is the overseer, and Uncle Sam is turning the knob on the gas chamber. That's our role in this. The United States by GHF, and GHF is way in over their head. Way in over their head. The Israeli government is taking advantage of the United States. And we're doing it complicitly, and we're allowing it to happen, which is why I'm speaking up, because the American people, the American taxpayer, the American citizens need to know what they're a part of. They need to know what their government has pulled them into on behalf of the Israeli government. It's not okay. It's unpatriotic. It's un-American. So anyone out there that claims to be a patriot or an American, think about it. Whether you're Betty and Bob out in California or Franny and Fred down in southern Florida, your tax dollars are going to pay for a genocide. And when Israel pulls us into a greater war, because the world will condemn what is happening in Gaza, and it will draw Israel into a greater war. And when American soldiers start coming home in flag-draped coffins, don't say you know. Don't turn your face away in shame to think we didn't know. You knew, and we're a part of it. And we're going to be dragged into a greater war. And it's not a matter of months or years. It's a matter of days and weeks. That it's coming. Which is why I'm so energetically getting the message out.
Yeah.
What's your theory, or what's your belief as to why the American government is so, whatever Israel does, we just fund?
Well, I think there's a lot of, I think there's this worldwide sense of guilt or sympathy for what Israel has endured in its creation, and what that it's uninformed, but there's like this feeling of that whatever Israel decides to do, they must be right because they are always in the right in their defense, and that's not true. That is not true. If you think about but also in this particular case, to your question about why, The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation doesn't have any human, and here's how we got played into this, is that imagine if the analogy or the anecdote, the comparative anecdote that I give to paint this picture for everyone is, imagine if you own a piece of land, nice piece of land, and you want to build a house, and you decide that you're going to build a house and you want to do a custom home, so you need a contractor. Well, you don't want to pay too much money, so you hire Billy Bob, who's never done contracting in his life, but he comes up to you and he's like, "Hey, I'll build your house and I'll do it for $1,000." And then the other contractor is like, "Well, I've been doing this for 80 years." That's the UN. "I've been doing this for 80 years, and I know that if you want to build that house, it's gonna." If he's offering to build you a house for $2,000, he's not going to build you a house. He's like, "Here's how much it'll cost to do it right." And then America is the client. America is the one building the house. And we go, "Well, I don't really give a shit about what the house looks like or how it gets built because I'm not going to live in it. So I'm going to go with the cheaper option." And then here's the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. We can do it. We can do it. That's Billy Bob. He comes in to build the contract or build the house, and he hires some subcontractors, UG Solutions and Safe Reach Solutions, unlicensed plumbers, unregistered, unlicensed electricians, dudes just coming in and tinkering, building a house. That's the GHF. The problem is that, imagine, if you will, when Billy Bob said, "Oh, I can do it. Everything that other contractors said he could do, I can do." That's GHF saying everything the United Nations said they can do, we can do. The United Nations didn't come, or the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation didn't come into this and just get, all of a sudden it was all dropped on them. That narrative of, "Well, we're doing our best and the UN won't help." The UN can't help because you, GHF, came in and said that you were going to do it. You told Israel and America that you were going to do it. And they're being paid to do it. So Billy Bob says, "I'll do it for 2,000. You give Billy Bob $2,000, and he's like, "Woo, that's a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. I need some more money." You're like, "I can't give you more money. That's what I paid you to do." So then the homeowners association has to step in to pay for the rest of the house because you've already effed up the neighborhood. So like, well, we might as well finish building the house. What the GHF has done, we can do it. "Oh my God, this is way more than we thought." Well, you have to give them water. Oh man, we have to give them medicine and actual food and things to live. Like, oh man, we didn't expect that. We need some more money. So then the State Department came in with USAID and gave them $30 million. That's the homeowners association. So America, the United States of America, you are footing the bill for a company that is incompetent and evil, and you're funding it.
But I think you're ascribing a level of ignorance that, like, I actually think
I was gonna say, I think, no offense, don't take this the wrong way. I do not think that our politicians, I think they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that.
Oh no, I completely agree with you. I'm talking about the perception is that we don't know what we're doing. The reality is, if you were to engineer or to design a genocide, this is exactly how it would look.
Yeah.
So when you look at the fact of, like,
especially so you can get away with it in 2025 with social media pictures and stuff like that,
and just lie to people that don't know better, because when you hear the rhetoric of, "Oh, the war zone, there's no rules," bullshit.
Yeah.
That is not there are laws and rules, and you cannot target, kill, starve, and displace populations, regardless of who they are. It doesn't matter who they are.
Tony, your connection is not very good.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Sorry.
Just give it 1 second. I'm just gonna add in, and I'm gonna say something, and I'll probably make both of you uncomfortable. Sorry. But I've long believed that, because I remember how I used to feel about Israel, like back before I learned anything. And this was my mindset. the Jews went through so much and I don't really care because they need their own state, right? Number one, that was my idea. The Jews had this terrible thing that happened to them, so they need their own state, and Palestinians just need to get over it. I'm not even joking. That was literally my mindset, number one. Number two, I always thought there's no way the Jews would do anything this terrible, right? And I do think, because I was thinking of them as this totally separate entity, but the truth is that they're humans, and humans just do shitty things, right?
Especially when they're empowered to get away with it, because
when they're empowered,
stopped.
right? And it's this idea that, like, and I do think that there's this idea that because of the Holocaust, because of World War II, that no, Israel would never do anything that terrible because they had been through this, right? Since they had been through something really bad, there's no way that they would do something
as though which doesn't even make sense because it's not the same people.
It doesn't,
it's like,
and I know, but I'm telling you, like, the total mindset of people of this is how we all think. Right?
I know.
If you don't grow up with it, I'm telling you, like, this is how people, especially then you throw in, like Tony said about, like, the military, and the IDF is just so, like, they are, again, the most moral army. It is, like, pounded into you. If you're around the military a bunch, that is pounded into you, this idea of, like, they are the ones we should aspire to be, right?
Yeah.
Which is nuts. It's so nuts. Once you break out of that mindset, once you break out of that cult, and it is a cult, okay? Yeah. It's really nuts to, like, look back and think,
of course,
hell? Because they do the kind of some of the most satanic things, like just demonic stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys saw while Tony's, I'll go off script a little bit while Tony's talking here, or, you know, not script, but
I'm gonna take a quick break. I never do that, but since
sorry,
he's
guys.
Sorry guys. You guys talk. I'll be right back.
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. They're screwing with you, Tony. I'm sorry. Do you have ear?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, hold on just a second, guys. Can you, because I have an echo. Did you have headphones in earlier?
I didn't earlier.
You did not? I don't know why I have an echo.
No, it's because Janine's headphones are out.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you, Evan. And so, sorry, we're taking a little break right now. I went off on a tangent, but I saw you nodding, so I think you agree, Tony. Sorry, guys, just 1 second. And we're going to do some questions from people. Okay, let me see. I see. Just want you to know you are very much loved. We have lots of thank you, telling you that you are appreciated. We are going to get to the stuff, the personal attacks on Tony himself. So just give us a second, because we're gonna go over. We wanted to go over exactly what you saw, but we are going to get to what happened when you blew the whistle, right? Because the attacks that happened on you were multi-front. It wasn't just they wanted to attack your allegations. They wanted to destroy you. And this is what happens to people who speak out. And God bless you. God bless your wife. For you guys have been, I mean, just warriors. I love it. You are like, and when we're texting, Tony's like, I don't care. They can fire anything they want at me. They're not going to hurt me, and they're not going to shut me up. So, which is just so awesome. I love it. But hold on, we're having just one.
I mean, yeah, I think so it's like popping up on my screen that his devices are not accessible.
I know.
Okay.
Just
now his it's like popping up.
Okay.
Okay. Now you have an echo.
But hold on, he might be.
Okay.
Okay, I moved from the phone to the laptop. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Hold on, let me do something with this one. Okay, this guy. Let me see. Hold on. I wonder if I did. Uh-oh. I don't think that's right. Sorry, guys. I'm going to remove that other one. Okay. I think I did. Maybe I didn't.
There we go.
There we go.
That, yeah. Now you look
normal and right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So.
Can you all hear me?
Yes. And you sound. Now we can hear you without. You were breaking up for a bit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I switched.
Sorry.
I followed the link and switched to this now. Yeah.
It was the Mossad for sure.
Probably.
People think I'm crazy when I say this.
I don't think it was Mossad.
No, I think, you know.
I do.
I mean, they.
Maybe not.
You know, I've called the, you know, my internet connection has never had problems in the time that we've lived here until I first started doing podcasts. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, that is interesting.
So, yeah, so
Max Norda, just so you know.
Yeah, so when I look at the initially when I was in Gaza, looking at and being on the sites and being seeing how everything was designed and operating, I initially thought that it was gross negligence and just in it, like just amateur hour is what I would call it. But what became very evident to me in short order was that it's deliberate. Everything that's happening in terms of the displacement, the starvation with the facade of feeding, even now, just days ago, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation had this press conference where they're like, "Oh, we got this new plan. We're gonna allow the Palestinians to reserve a meal, reserve a box for them and their family." And all they got to do for the low price of their life is come on down and get themselves biometrically scanned, take their fingerprints, and move on down to this camp, and they can reserve a box. It's so much. It's just insane.
Insane.
Yeah. Real quick, Tony. So a lot of pro-Palestine stuff, anti-Israel stuff has always been on the left, right? And so I'm on the right. I'm a registered Republican and whatnot. I've been around the military my whole life. I really want to stress this because it's something that I, again, having been around the military, having been married to a Green Beret, I know the way that the U.S. military is allowed to act and the way that they're not allowed to act, right? So sometimes people try to pretend, like, especially on the left, I see this a lot, is that the U.S. military, this is what they've always done. This is what we did in Iraq. This is what we did in Afghanistan, right? And I'm not saying that we were perfect by any means, okay? But can you confirm for me that the U.S. military was just simply not allowed to do the things that the IDF does? Because this is what I've been trying to tell people. I'm like, if the U.S. military targeted, if they just shot people in the street with, under just random circumstances, that would be a huge deal, right? This would.
Well, consider. So I want to, to your point, yeah. I want to further articulate that with a real comparison, a real event. So in Afghanistan, when the United States with the Afghan army, Afghan security forces, special operations commandos from the Afghan army, the Afghan National Police, United States Marines, U.S. Army Special Forces, the city of Marja. Marja is in Helmand province. The Helmand province is kind of the grassroots birthplace of the Taliban. Marja was completely controlled by the Taliban. It was, the Taliban flag, the Taliban operated, it was a Taliban controlled city. And the decision was made that we were going to go in and clear the Taliban out of it. And in doing that, I can tell you exactly how that went down. The first and foremost of all considerations was the safeguarding and protection of the civilian population. Was the Taliban entrenched? Were most considered, well, they're probably Taliban anyway? Maybe. However, the civilian population is always to be considered and safeguarded. So we came in from the south, and when we first initiated the operation, the allowance, safe passage for people that lived in the city to move out of the city to safer places during the actual operation, not permanently, not indefinitely. And in moving them, we had an absolute obligation under the Geneva Convention, but also just in line with our values, but also under NATO, it's a NATO operation, that in moving those people for that temporary amount of time, they had to be safeguarded, fed, food, water, keeping them safe. Imagine, if you will, as if a special forces commander, or as a special forces planner, an operational planner or a commander, if I laid out a plan to my superiors and I said, hey, you wanted me to safeguard the civilian population and I'm going to move them out. Well, I want to consolidate them all in the middle of the city and just drop bombs all around them. How about that? I would have been fired. My commanders would have been like, no, you lunatic. That, of course not. Because that's not how the United States military operates. So people that want to say this, oh, well, we were in Iraq and Afghanistan just killing people in war crimes anyway. No, not true. Not true at all. In fact, the United States military oftentimes will assume greater risk upon ourselves to protect the civilian population, the innocent, the unarmed, the civilian population. We will oftentimes take greater risk to ourselves to protect them.
I just want to briefly touch on the issue of how the Palestinians have been dehumanized, like even the children. I thought you couldn't dehumanize children, and as the daughter of a Palestinian, my father grew up in the occupied West Bank, and he's like the kindest person I know. Like, he literally cannot kill a fly. He takes insects out of the house. He takes mice from our house to Cornell campus because he can't kill them. He's like the most loving, humane person. His parents were that way. His whole family is that way. And so this bullshit about how Palestinians just grow up teaching their children to hate,
that's not true.
No, it's not true. Not. And they're not, a lot of Palestinians aren't super fond of their occupiers. Yeah.
He wasn't taught to hate.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
been wild.
It's a way of.
She wasn't taught to hate.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they literally say that about as a way of justifying the extermination of children, which is just it's beyond shocking to me. I don't.
And the fact that anyone in the world accepts that, I am personally, as an American, I am ashamed of Ambassador Huckabee for the things that man says. That he, even to this day, I don't know why the president hasn't demarched him and brought him out of Israel, because the president, the United States of America, our president even said, there's starvation. Yeah. And Mike Huckabee still, to this day, as of yesterday, is still saying there's no starvation. It's a lie. It's Hamas propaganda. And I can't even think of the words to describe how evil that is. That's not incompetence. That's deliberate lying on behalf of who? Why is the United States, our government, and giving the keys to our values, giving the steering wheel to the values of our nation over to Israel? I don't understand why. We would not allow that. First of all, Israel is not an ally. We have no alliance. They are not an ally.
People need to understand that. There is no formal defense treaty between the U.S. and Israel. Okay? That's right. They are classified as a major non-NATO ally. They are the only one that has never fought alongside us.
That's right.
They have never sent their troops to fight with us. We are told that their intelligence is just great. Their intelligence gathering is just so superior that apparently they don't actually have to send their boys to die next to ours. And yet that has been called into question again and again and again. The reliability of their intelligence is extremely questionable at best. Okay? And second, their intelligence is almost exclusively about their enemies. I know it's not funny, but it kind of is, because
every war that I have fought in the 21st century, and I've fought in 4 different actual wars: Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom Philippines and Central Asia, Operation Inherent Resolve, the fight against ISIS. 4 different named wars or operations in many different countries. And every time I went, you know who was by our side, fighting on the ground and in those rooms? The Brits, the Canadians, the Australians, Turkey's part of NATO, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, all of these other nations coming forward. I mean, just there's so many of them. I can't even name all the hundreds of them in the coalition and the alliance.
Okay, now I'm.
But on the ground, they're fighting alongside of us. Why do they get a pass? Because they're not an ally. They are not in an alliance with the United States. They benefit off of the being treated, the entitlement of an ally, but they don't put in. Why?
Now I'm starting to believe you.
Why not? I am not anti-Israel. I'm anti-genocide. And I'll say that from now until the day I'm put in the ground. I am anti-genocide. I am anti-violating human rights and dehumanizing people regardless of who they are. I don't care if they're penguins or polar bears or Eskimos or Indians or anyone else in the world. Palestinians are not. I am anti-dehumanization of any person, period. That's what I'm anti. I'm also anti any nation that wants to take advantage of the United States. And we are being taken advantage of. And what, again, to the American taxpayer, to the American citizen sitting at home and thinking that you're not a part of this, you are a part of it. You are complicit, not only in your tax dollars, but mark my words. For anybody listening to this today, mark your calendar, August 24th, 2025 at 4:38 Eastern time, and you can say that Tony said it. That in the future, when we have American soldiers coming home in flag-draped coffins on behalf of us now fighting or involved in a war that Israel pulled us into, do not say you didn't know. And do not hide your head in shame and put your yellow ribbon outside your door and act like a patriot when you could have prevented this.
Yep.
That's what so I have a lot of friends, I obviously won't name, who are like, well, I just don't want to be involved. You know, it's not my problem. This sounds like a foreign issue. Like, don't really want to learn about it. Let these people sort it out. Ancient blood feuds. And I'm like, that is not, that is not like,
no, like, it's not. First of all, an ancient blood feud. It's 8 years old.
And we're funding this. We're funding this.
We're funding it. And yeah, wait, we're not just funding it. We don't just fund it, okay? We supply it. We fund it. We supply it. We give it unlimited diplomatic
immunity.
Okay?
Yeah.
If Europe simply cut Israel off from trade, okay, this would be over. But no, we will levy sanctions against any European country that does this. You have the ICC filing charges against Benjamin Netanyahu, 4 war crimes, along with 3 others. With Yoav Gallant, and I don't remember the name of the third one. We have levied sanctions against the ICC prosecutors. It is
it's beyond.
It's up to our eyebrows. We are just as, and I have been saying this since the end of October 2023. When the dust finally clears, when this nightmare finally ends and we're able to go in and see what has happened, it will be worse than anyone has ever imagined. Everything that we think is bad will never be as bad as what it will always be worse than what we could have imagined, right? Because again, as most people don't know, but we have dropped Israel in the first year dropped 100,000 tons of bombs, right? They have now dropped more bombs than what was dropped in all of World War II combined. This is every single location. As far as weight goes, and this is on a strip of land that is 26 miles by 6 miles. Okay, it is
that they controlled.
Small.
They have since 1967. They've controlled the airspace. The
Gaza has been under occupation from the beginning.
Yeah.
Israel controls the air, the sea, the land, what goes in and what comes out, and now they're physically on the land. Just because they're there now in an occupying force, which they are, it's always been occupied. They've never had the opportunity of self-governance or to be an entity outside of that to where they're, I mean, imagine a state in the United States. Let's take Oklahoma, for example. And the United States government controlled all of the airspace over Oklahoma, every border going in and out. If there's no ocean around Oklahoma. Let me pick a different state, Louisiana, since it has an ocean. Controlled the maritime border, wouldn't let them fish, wouldn't let them produce or refine oil. Controlled the airspace, nothing goes in and out, nothing goes in and out by land, and we're saying, oh yeah, Louisiana's free, they're their own state. Bullshit.
Yep.
And of course, I think none of us are fans of Hamas. None of us say it's okay to kill civilians on October 7th. None of that. But of course, what happens in such conditions is that terrorist groups will rise up because people are oppressed. They don't have freedom.
I reject the claim that resistance is necessarily terrorism. Correct?
I mean, it's.
I know
always,
you and I.
I say when people say that, the whole resistance being terrorism or standing up against terrorism, I've been trying to get back into reading and history now that I'm retired. I like to crack open a good book, cup of coffee, and read. And I was reading this book. It was about this. I can't put my finger on it, but I was reading about this group of people that started their own country where they resisted tyranny, and they resisted taxation without representation, and they resisted the governance that they fell under, and said, "You're not going to control us anymore." I can't remember.
I can't.
Who that was? I can't put my finger on it to remember. That wasn't terrorism. That was a revolution and independence. So if brown people do it, it's terrorism. If white people do it, it's revolution.
Well, as a brown person, I'm required to denounce October 7th. I have to.
You're not. As a white person,
do the.
Nope. I'm giving you a card. You get a pass. Okay. I'm handing it out. Okay.
No,
don't tread on me, motherfuckers. All right.
I don't understand why the new patriot, so to speak. This is the profile of the new patriot. You love guns. You denounce any opinion against you. You're super religious. You support Israel. You are unapologetic for who you are as a person. That's not patriotism. The patriotism that came up that started our country are people that said, you know what? Religion has no place in our government.
Yeah.
The government shouldn't dictate what we do. Less government is better.
Just because I actually am not retired, and I have to make sure my career is there. I do have to say I renounce violence against civilians. It was not okay.
I renounce violence against. I renounce violence. Resistance is not always means violence. Resistance is a voice. No war in the history of mankind achieves its end through violence. Violence may be a part of it, but violence can never be the way in which conflict comes to a conclusion. The end of the Revolutionary War didn't come about through violence. It came about through accepting surrender and accepting the Constitution and writing a declaration. We didn't fight the war and then say, oh, we fought a war, let's just go do what we were doing. We declared it in a document that was called the Constitution. That's how that war ended. All wars that end in a way that ever leads to some type of establishment of peace or a standard of existence ends diplomatically
not through violence. I denounce violence. I fought in many a war, and I denounce violence.
I do not denounce violent measures against oppression. I feel like people have to take up arms. It is a natural instinct. It is a natural instinct to oppose tyranny with everything you have, right? And so if someone came and they said, this house that you live in, this belonged to my ancestors 2,000 years ago, you don't have the right permits to have built this house, we're going to bulldoze it and give it to somebody from Brooklyn, okay? I would oppose it with everything that I had, every fiber of my being, and then I would instill that into my children as well. I'm extremely sympathetic to the cause, and I totally understand it. And I know that there are nuances, obviously, that, and
guilt is individual, right? That's the most important principle.
Correct. Guilt is individual,
so you don't target people. Yes, you don't target people because they're of a certain
Israel
ethnicity.
Israel is different, though, right? I don't think that they were targeted because they're quote-unquote Jews. I think they were targeted because they were Israelis. And it's real
no, Mel, I gotta disagree with you on this. It's not okay to kill Israeli civilians either.
I don't necessarily think that it's okay to kill Israeli civilians. I have yet to see, I do understand that there was instances in which there was violence. I know, number one, I watched the video of the Filipino, I believe he was a janitor who was decapitated. That was disgusting. That was abhorrent.
Taking the Bibas family hostage was not okay.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
That's all I'm saying.
You can't take children. It is abhorrent to take children as hostages. That is wrong. Okay? It is wrong. It was wrong when Hamas did it, and it is wrong when Israel does it repeatedly, over and over and over again, okay? The problem for me is that I see these people condemning that 100 times, but I never see them condemning Israel for taking children hostages. And they do. They take 9, 10-year-olds, okay?
Well, I know. I have cousins, and but I'm just saying.
But others don't. You
know? We don't have to sink to their level.
I agree. I do agree. And I think that was wrong, and I condemned it at the time. But again, I'm not I just have no interest in repeatedly condemning it. Like I did. I said it was wrong. Yeah. You should let them go.
I'd rather not, but everybody's always trying to destroy my career, so I'm doing the song and dance.
I know you are. But
as a half Palestinian.
Where's your condemnation for that? And I'm like, I already did that. I did that in November of 2023. I said, you need to let the kids go. You need to let the civilians go. You shouldn't do that. You can't sink to their level. But at the same time, am I now 22 months later, am I going to freaking continue to just freaking harp on that when the horrors that we can hardly even imagine have been perpetrated? Come on, man.
No, you know.
Violence against anyone. What the violence of October 7th, I denounce. It's horrible. The violence that's been projected against the Palestinians for years, I denounce. Violence, two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly.
And the problem where we've stepped now is that, for example, September 11th, I lived in New York. I went to school in New York. I was in New York, not in the city, but just up the road, just up the river on the Hudson. I watched as the towers burned and the second aircraft hit. I was standing on top of Mahan Hall at West Point watching this.
Wow.
So was September 11th horrible and denounced violence? Yes, absolutely. However, when the United States then went into Afghanistan with a very clear goal in mind, was our goal let's just kill every Afghan? Let's just kill every Afghan and wipe Afghanistan off the map? No. Because wars fought through vengeance with annihilation as the goal are immoral or unethical.
Of course. And Israel,
I denounce violence, and there is nothing that justifies the absolute shameful, horrible things. And believe it or not, when I first got into Israel and I had a little bit of time to to spend, because I had not been to that part of Israel before. I've flown into Tel Aviv in and out before, but I've never really been in Israel. And I went and I wanted to understand the October 7th and the gravity on the ground, kind of like going to the World Trade Center in New York City and seeing, going through the tour where they show you, like, here's where the tower once stood. They're gone now. Bringing that gravity into the understanding of the mindset. And so I went to Kibbutz Biali, where which was the kibbutz that was first hit on October 7th, that was massacred. And I went to the Nova Film Festival, and the violence and the absolute evilness of that day, and days before that, from both sides, mind you, I denounce that violence. There's no justification for it.
Yeah.
And what I would ask now is that two wrongs don't make a right. You don't then say, well, everything that happened to us on October 7th and before, what Hamas does, we're going to kill every Palestinian. We're going to annihilate and destroy and kill every Palestinian. No. That is, just because I say no to genocide, and just because I say no to killing and starving women and children and the elderly, doesn't mean that I think that Hamas should have a free pass and what happened on October 7th is justifiable. No, I do not believe that. But what we're seeing now in front of us, in our eyes, is a protracted genocide. And it is happening. And right now, as we speak, as we sit here today on Sunday, the 24th of August, there's another 100 or another 1,000 Palestinians being forcefully displaced to the south. When Operation Gideon's Chariots 2 comes to an end, and I'm not making up that name, that's the name of it. Look it up. That's the name of the operation. When the IDF push all the way through and blow up every house and destroy every neighborhood and blow up every hospital and school and everything that stands, and they make their way all the way to Erez Crossing, that this is the limit of advance for Operation Gideon's Chariots, the Erez border. When they reach there, and every Palestinian in Gaza has been pushed all the way to the south to the humanitarian assistance transit village that the GHF is running, then what? Well, and that's what we should all be incredibly concerned and scared about. Then what?
Well,
are we just gonna allow Israel to starve them all? Then what?
Well, that's what we're doing, isn't it?
That is what we are doing.
I want to bring it back to, what you said after 9/11, because you reminded me of something. So after 9/11 happened, the U.S. Special Forces actually sent in to Afghanistan. They're known as the Horse Soldiers, right? And so
Fifth Special Forces Group,
right?
ODA 555, the triple nickel.
Right. So my ex-husband was 535. And he was the medic on the team. One of the guys on his team was a man named Brett Walden, who was originally one of the soldiers, right? He was one of the horsemen. And so we sent our guys in to landscape to figure out what the hell was going on. They were literally on horseback. That is not even an exaggeration.
That's
right?
true.
I just want to juxtapose that to what happened. So we are attacked in the most violent way possible. They fly planes into buildings, correct? And our response was, okay, we're going to go into Afghanistan because this is where the Taliban has created a space in their country and allowed Al-Qaeda to train there and to plan from there. So this is the idea, right? And I'm not going to get into all of the politics of that, but we sent in these 12 horsemen, right? And they scope everything out. And then the invasion happens, I believe it was December of 2001. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that, right? But there's a long planning period that happens, and these horsemen were super important. And juxtapose that to what happened after October 7th, which was carpet bombing that started on the night of October 7th and 90 full days of non-stop bombing. And there was no plan. I take that back. There is a plan. The plan was to make the area inhabitable.
They've been waiting to get rid of the Palestinians for an excuse to get rid of them for decades.
Correct.
And this particular government for years.
Right. And so I think about like that as opposed to the way that we sent our soldiers in to plan this thing. And again, I'm not saying that we're perfect by any means. There were a lot of mistakes made. If I could go back, I would actually not do it anyway like that. Hindsight is 2020, correct? But again, it's amazing when you really stop to think about the way that the U.S. has put in so much planning and so prioritized civilian life and the preservation of even just like
we always do. And anyone out there that says that our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were just wars of slaughter and that is not true.
You are not true. You do not know what you are talking about. And I can tell you this because I have talked to these men that have gone in there, and sometimes they are so frustrated with the things the bullshit that they kind of have to put up with, that they sometimes, they'll say, you can't even do your freaking job because there's so many rules in place. Okay? And then to turn around and then you hear people like Ted Cruz saying, well, really the IDF is the most moral army on the planet, and it's like, number one,
they're not.
F you. That is such a slap.
Maybe if you changed most to least, that would.
Yeah.
I mean, just let me give you an inside view, even of Syria when we were fighting ISIS. ISIS, ISIS was cutting off people's heads on TV.
Yeah.
ISIS
they actually did behead people,
killing women and children, the most horrific of things. And when ISIS was pushed out of Iraq and fled into northeast Syria, where the United States, with the Syrian Democratic Forces, the Kurds, fought ISIS, the bombing campaign, I know this as a fact because I sat there in these meetings. I sat there with these general officers that had what's called tactical authority, operational authority. The decision to drop a bomb in Syria wasn't just with some platoon leader or some company commander. That authority resided with a general officer because it was so important that we did not unintentionally kill or destroy or blow up or harm civilians. Because Syrians that lived in... Go ahead.
No, we have a question from the chat I wanted to pose from Twin Mama. I'd love to know if any of the fellow Americans or just non-Israelis he was over there with felt similar to him, or if they seemed to not have, or not have a problem with what they were doing.
So I know, and again, I know that there are others under the UG Solutions contract, the contractors on the ground that feel, and continue to feel the way that I do. Remember what I want to remind everybody, and I've said this before, I was not the first to resign, and I was not the last. Before I stepped down, remember, on the 26th of May, Jake Wood, who was the director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, he was the man that Johnny Moore replaced. Johnny Moore wasn't in charge of GHF from the beginning. The guy in charge of GHF, Jake Wood, on the 26th of May, stepped down from that position because he said, I cannot be a part of this anymore. This operation will not be conducted in a humanitarian way or meet humanitarian standards. I can't be a part of it. The guy in charge of the thing. Imagine if we're all in an airplane flying somewhere and the pilot jumps out. The guy in charge of the whole thing.
It was on the 2 days before, right? Before you guys were supposed to open, correct?
The day we started.
Okay, yeah.
The day we started. And then on the 27th of May, the day after we did our first distribution, the number 2 man in charge of the entire contract, a Green Beret, a retired Green Beret lieutenant colonel, stepped down in protest, resigned. Resigned. On 2 days later, another Green Beret that I've served with throughout my career, that at one point I commanded. He was in my company. He was a Green Beret that I commanded. He resigned and left because of the absurdness of what he saw. 2 days after that, Safe Reach Solutions, number 3 guy in charge on the ground, a Marine Corps retired lieutenant colonel who led a Marine infantry battalion in Fallujah, resigned because what he saw was so abhorrent. Then days later, I resigned. After me, more people have resigned. I would like everybody that's listening, if you have time this evening, Google CBS interview with GHF whistleblower. Okay. It's an interview that was done just a couple days ago. That interview that was done, that is not me. That is another contractor that resigned who is describing the murder and the killing of people on the sites. In fact, as a truck driver, this isn't even a security contractor. This is a truck driver who had never been exposed to any of this, who on camera has film, video of the bullets and the bombs and everything coming in, and in his own testimony discusses how the GHF, the truck drivers, loaded up dead bodies of civilians at or near the sites and drove them away to dispose of them. That's the truth of what's happening. I am not the only, there are people that have spoken out. Now, very few, if any, I don't know if anyone else will go on the record for fear of what the shadow government, if you will do. If I was working right now and required, had to work for my employment, I'd be screwed. I'd be screwed.
Yeah, well, that's a great, I was going to say that's a great transition into.
Let's get into what actually happened to you, because that's how you kind of learned about me and us, right? Is that, so I want to break it down. I'm sure all of our followers already know. I know Janice shared a bunch. So I got into that with this account. It was called Green Beret Nap Time. It's an Anon account that...
You're not going to say it, so I will. That individual's name is Chase Hill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Because he's a coward and he's a punk.
Yes, he is. He's just an asshole. He's a really stupid guy.
So do you actually know him in person, or...
So I've never met him. He served 10 years in the Army. Okay. The majority of his time in the Army as a Green Beret. He served in the Special Warfare Training Group, in the Special Warfare Medical Group, SWIMG, where the medics are trained. He was a trainer of medics. He didn't spend a lot of time in the force. He did not have a good reputation. And in fact, what's more, this is where other things start to connect, right? So this is what's more disgusting. If you go back and look at the history of his comments before I was ever on the scene, he calls people like Mel and other people the C word, the B word. He disparagingly talks about NATO. In one of his posts, he talks about, he shames the commander of the United States Army Special Operations Command, John Braga. This guy, Chase Hill, who got out of the Army as an E6, who got out of the Army because he couldn't hack it anymore, talks disparagingly about the commander of Special Operations Command, saying that he's woke because he picked a woman to be the command sergeant major of USASOC. This man disparages the entire regiment and the entire command. And what's more disgusting and sad is that this individual, to everybody listening, look it up and pass it on. His name is Chase Hill, and he is the Chief Operations Officer of the Special Forces Trust. The Special Forces Trust is a nonprofit organization who claims that they support the well-being and the mental health of Green Berets. This guy is the chief operations at an organization, and he went online on his X platform and referred to my wife, who you two just met, referred to my wife, a career-long officer who served her military proudly, was in the 82nd Airborne, that deployed to combat, that spent the majority of her career in Special Operations Forces as a public affairs officer on the staff in Special Forces Operation. This coward referred to my wife as the C word, and I would say it, but it's a disgusting word, so I won't. Can you believe
everyone
that?
knows what you mean.
Can you believe that? This coward. So for everybody out there, for @GBNT1952, his name is Chase Hill, and he's a racist, a misogynistic prick.
First of all, let me just above all of that, he's dumb. Okay, I can say this as someone who has interacted with this man several times. He is stupid. He is extremely stupid. Okay, and I say that as someone who you can just recognize when you are sparring with people online. I've kind of been, I've got a lot of battle scars from warring with people on X. This guy is dumb, and the problem with him, the biggest problem is he actually thinks he's smart. All right. He is.
That's the biggest problem with all dumb people.
With all
dumb people
some
think
dumb
they're
people
smart.
just get it. They do. But no, he genuinely believes he's really smart. And no, he is a fucking idiot. I'm not even kidding you. Okay, like to the point where sometimes I don't even know how to approach it because I'm wondering if I'm picking on someone who is special. All right, like I would never want to be accused of like beating on someone who actually had a disability, right? And I'm like interacting with him and I don't quite, I'm like, how? Because he'll respond with things like, ha 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 ha, you're such a dumb bitch, right? Like,
he blocked you, by the way. Real tough guy. Real tough guy.
And so when I first interacted with him, the first thing that really kind of came up was he started bragging about just this kind of indiscriminate murdering that he says he did in Iraq.
Yeah.
Right? And again,
the Department of Defense should recall him onto active dudy and charge him under the United States Code of Military Justice for what he's admitted to on his site.
That's exactly what I said.
But he has pro-Israel immunity, so.
Correct. So he's what I noticed was that, and I've seen this before with other propagandists, is that they will try to cover up for IDF crimes by essentially smearing the U.S. military and saying, "Well, we did the same thing."
They'll cover for IDF crimes by saying, "Oh, we did the same thing, so it's okay." It's like, "Oh, it's not okay." And if you did that, you're a war criminal, and you should be in Leavenworth.
Exactly. And so that's what I said. And so the first time I ever interacted with him, I actually quote tweeted him and I said, there is nothing that disgusts me more than when I see people claiming to be American soldiers equating the American military with the IDF. That this is repulsive to me because I know firsthand that our soldiers don't act like this. I know that they're not allowed, okay? And if they did these things, okay, if they posted pictures of themselves wearing the lingerie of the homes that they had invaded, it would just be career ending. It would be devastating for them, right?
U.S. soldiers in war have conducted themselves unethically and immorally, and they were punished for it.
Correct, yes. Yes, and so, and I'm not saying that these things never happened, but it's a big deal if you act like an absolute dirtbag.
And here it's, it's so strange that it's like anti-Israel or anti-Semitic to say like it's wrong to engage in that kind of conduct. Like that.
It's wrong to take children's toys and videotape yourself breaking them, like little kids' toys. Like what the fuck is wrong with you people? You know?
But before we go, we should address
So I want to talk about, so what happened was, I get into this with this guy, and this was actually days before Tony kind of came on the scene. It was about something totally different. Then, interestingly enough, I actually got a DM from someone. So Tony came on the scene. I'll be honest with you, Tony. I didn't put a lot of focus on you initially because I already believed the Palestinians. When Palestinians told me that these things were happening, I already believed them. I don't take this wrongly. I didn't need your testimony.
I feel an immense amount of guilt, amount of guilt, and almost shame that me speaking out, that people are like, oh, now we believe it. The Palestinians have been speaking out against this for years. Yes. The UN and UNRWA and doctors and surgeons have been speaking about this for months.
Right.
I feel guilty.
No, I do want to give Tony a compliment because he deserves it. Like the consequences for you, as you've experienced, can be severe. Right. And my Palestinian father, who grew up under the West Bank occupation, suffered immensely, and that's why he came to the United States, and that's why I'm alive. is a big fan. And he was like, I mean, this man is so courageous. He's been talking about you for weeks, ever since you were on Tucker Carlson. He really admires you. Like, we understand the risks and that you put yourself out there when you don't have to. So, you know,
before he went on Tucker, sorry, I know we gotta wrap it up, but before he went on Tucker, I'll be honest, I was kind of like, and I've been really conscious of this, you know, like we always elevate these people from the West, and it's like Palestinians were just telling us, like, we already knew what was happening, okay? And I believed them, so I believed you, because they've already told us everything. They've already they've had to meticulously document every terrible thing that has happened to them so that anyone will believe it, right? And it's like, hurts my heart so bad every time I think about how painful it must be to have to pull out the freaking phone just so you can record it, instead of comforting the child, instead of doing whatever needs to be done. Because no, the most important thing is that you have to document it so that assholes in America won't say that you're lying.
Well, then they just say it's Pallywood, so it doesn't even matter.
And so that already upset me, okay? But so you came forward, and I didn't share a whole lot. I think I did one thing, but then I get this weird DM, and I don't check my like other DMs very often, but I happened to check it this time, and it was this thing, and it said, and it was a picture of you, and it said you had been a wife beater, okay? And it said, I forget the message exactly, but it said, look at what you're defending, you stupid bitch. Okay, and I get these all the time. I mean, like, all the time. Like, I've been called every word that there is to be called. I couldn't care less. But you live in North Carolina, and I live in North Carolina. You live in Harnett County. I live in Cumberland County. And I happen to know my shit when it comes to all of this, okay? So I'm looking at this, like, arrest report, and I'm like, okay, well, I used to be a paralegal for a criminal defense attorney, and nothing about this looks right. So I go on down to the courthouse, and I start pulling stuff up. Talk to the court clerk. She's a sweetie.
She actually called me, and she was like, can you pull up?
I call her freaking out, right?
Because I have access, because I'm a lawyer, I have access to all the court stuff. So she's like, can you pull up this docket number? And I was like, I'm putting in the docket number. There's nothing coming up.
Nothing.
So
I go down to the courthouse, and I start talking to the clerk. She's super sweet. We get along really well. She recognized me from when I had been a paralegal before. So there was a little bit of, like back and forth. It's not like we like knew each other or anything, but I show her this thing. She's like, well, that doesn't look right. Because, well, she said, nah, girl, that was fake, all right? Because they don't put the date of birth on there, right? And I was like, okay, that's weird. We pull up this Harnett County arrest warrant, and what do you know? It's just got age on there. Okay, it sounds great. So I look it up, and we pull up, and we find your court records, your court filings. So you and your wife, you guys had some trouble, right? You did. You just did. It happens.
And it happens, yeah. It's normal.
In every marriage, there's literally not a marriage out there that does not, at some point, have some kind of issue, right? Yeah. And so what happens was, she shows me how I can access this online. I was like, okay, great. I was able to access the full thing at the courthouse, but I'm able to access some things online. So I go home, and I just start reading through. And what becomes very clear is that there's just this issue that happened. There was something that happened, and it's very personal. It was so difficult to me, and Janine can attest to you. She can testify that I called her so conflicted. I called someone else, a friend of ours, Matthew, and I'm telling him, and he says, Mel, it's genocide. You got it. He is speaking out, and you got to help set the record straight, because there's nothing more important than what's happening in Gaza right here. So I speak out. I write a thread saying, because they were calling you a wife beater, and I said, no, this is actually not what happened. This was a very personal, private matter that happened in this marriage, and here's the wife, your wife Allison, who we met, and she's such a sweetie. She wrote a 3-page affidavit, signed it, submitted it, and it should have quashed it, right? Should have said no, that there was an argument between the two of you and it was resolved. But that didn't quash it, okay? These people, number one, are paid propagandists, and they are relentless and they are ruthless, okay? And this is what people face when they come out and they speak out on Israel. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, maybe, well, why is he the only one? I want you to know the reason that Tony is one of few, but it's growing, is the fact that Israel has a network of people in the U.S. that you don't even realize, you don't even know that they exist. I assure you, you don't know how vast it is. That their entire jobs are built around attacking anyone who opposes the supreme authority and moral authority of Israel, of the IDF, of the Mossad, whatever it is. And they are relentless and they will attack until there's nothing left, essentially.
And just think about, like, almost everybody has things like you wouldn't want everybody to know. Your most private moments.
Yeah.
Address that. Can I just quickly say, and then you can address. I was just gonna say, everybody has things like they would not want everybody to know, and your most private moments, like, and then also probably portrayed in the wrong light. So go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'll just put it into context to what we're talking about here. The three main smears, if you will, that there's a lot of bots, there's a lot of paid smears, which is fine. At one point the first volley from GHF was that I didn't graduate from West Point because I'm a pussy. That's what they said, right? I'm like, really? Okay, well, that's easy to debunk. I wasn't in the Army, wasn't a Green Beret, all these things. It's like okay, whatever. But now the paid bots, and I know this, Matt Tardio under Anger Tab was paid by UG Solutions.
Yep.
Paid. I have the pay receipt. I have the pay stubs. He thinks that everybody at UG Solutions is loyal to him and Jameson Giovanni. Nope. There are people in that headquarters that know what's up. Matt Tardio was paid by UG Solutions to do that little smear piece. So you got Matt Tardio, medically retired out of the Army because he had asthma. What? You got at GBNT 1952, Chase Hill, who is evidently a rampant misogynistic, bigot, racist. Everybody can see that. And that, again, that's before me. Go back in the history of his comments and go look at him, everybody. Look at the things he says. So you've got a hack job who got out of the Army at 15 years for asthma. I think he quit because he's a coward. Who he himself, whose wife beat him up when she found out that he'd killed children in Afghanistan. That's who you're going to listen to? And then you've got Matt Tardio, Chase Hill, and then you've got this other guy who runs this who was I guess kind of joining them in their little online Valhalla VFT. This guy's got his own little podcast. Well, that's a guy named Nate Cornacchia, who was in First Group, who got out of the Army as an E6. Let me tell you, if you're a Green Beret and you spend 10 years in Special Forces and you only make it to the rank of E6, something's up. Something is up. You come out of the Q course as an E6 almost. So these people that are trying to smear me, what I will ask you all is open your eyes and look into it. But for my case, go ahead.
The problem, and I know, if we're around this stuff, we know the kind of like the red flags, like, hold up, something's not right here, but normal people don't know this.
I have no idea. I know nothing about the military.
I'll be honest with you, like, I'm not trying to grill Jean, but earlier she's like, what's a Green Beret?
I was like, I know it means something elite, but like, I don't
listening to anything that Matt Tardio has to say about anybody who served in the military would be the equivalent of you buying a children's developmental book written by Jeffrey Epstein. Like, don't like anything he says.
According to Michael Tracy, that would be
absolutely incredible. It'd be like, it's like buying a cookbook from Ted Bundy. Like, what are you doing? Like, they can't be trusted. But the other thing is that all of them in their service, my wife served twice as long as any of them. I've got boots. I have boots that I wore that served in the Army longer than they did. So the thing is, they want to discredit me. They can't. They can't even hold a candle.
Someone in the chat, Emilio, asks if they did a similar smear to Colonel Nathan McCormick. Has anybody heard about him?
Yes. Yeah. They smear anybody and everybody that comes out to say anything because they're paid. They're paid by people to do it. They're on payroll to do it.
I want to ask you a question because Sean had a very good question. He said, hold on, I got so many screenshots. But I thought this was very good. Do you know who John Spencer is?
I do not. Nope.
Okay.
I have heard the name. I think I have talked to him.
He's a professor at West Point. So, well, I take that back. I don't quite know if he is a professor at West Point or if he does one of these things where he does these kind of seminars at West Point. Do you understand?
I think he might be either part of the counterterrorism center at West Point or maybe perhaps the Thayer training program. I don't think he's a Professor USMA, what they call Prof USMA. Okay. I think he's part of one of the organizations that's involved with West Point in terms of their programs.
Okay, so Sean had very good questions. So number one, and I think we've already addressed two of them, but he said, do you have any response to John Spencer and other so-called experts who claim that the IDF is not doing anything criminal?
What's his credentials? What are his credentials?
His credentials, I think he's some kind of expert. But I looked at Spencer one time because, to be sure, Spencer kind of came on the scene when he actually wrote a piece for Newsweek, I believe it was, in January of 2024, in which he said specifically that the IDF had the lowest civilian to militant kill rate in all modern wars. This was in... Okay, and when I looked at it, he specifically cited this UN report. When I went and looked at the UN report, what it showed was actually all death, quote unquote, natural deaths. This wasn't just actually violent deaths, deaths in combat. This was all deaths, accumulated deaths from like starvation or lack of medical care, things like that, of conflicts, modern conflicts, and they had placed it, I believe, at like 20-1 at that point, or maybe it was 50-1. So showed that in what the UN report was saying was that the majority of deaths in war were civilian, right? Which of course we know for sure, but he was applying that to strictly combat related deaths, like warfare related deaths, right? So he was taking this study by the UN totally out of context and then applying that when the when the IDF is of course just doing their carpet bombing thing, and he was setting the bar essentially at 50-1. And that
John Spencer, go ahead and finish and I'll hit you up on my response to your question.
Yeah, so John Spencer, that's his whole thing, and so he's been kind of like backtracking. But again, he's an IDF paid propagandist. People need to understand that.
So, okay? Tony, I want to hear your thoughts, but someone in the chat, Emilio again, says Spencer was the dude that suggested Ukrainians use paintball guns against Russian tanks. So I think he may not be the best dude. No, not to mention
John W. Spencer is a hack and a charlatan. And just because he got himself, he's not a professor at West Point. He didn't even go to West Point. Okay. He didn't even attend school there. And that's the other thing I hate about these people, that they get hired on by West Point to do some of their teaching or things like that, and then they think all of a sudden that they know.
Right.
Get out of here. He didn't go to West Point. He's the co-director of the Urban Warfare Project of the Modern War Institute that is at West Point. And he does a podcast. He got out of the Army as a major. In the United States Army, getting out as a major, the only time he commanded, if he ever commanded, I see nothing in his bio here that he wrote about him ever commanding anything.
Right.
Platoon leader, was never a company commander. Is in the rank of major, he never commanded a battalion. In special forces, we command as a major. So as a major, if he was special forces, he would have commanded, but he wasn't SF. So
people need to understand to look for these very important signals, right? These are red flags. I think that, you know what, I'm gonna write something up and I'm gonna send it to you, Tony. I'm gonna get you to sign off on it, because there are red flags you can look for when these experts get thrown up to give their opinion on things. And when you want to look at their actual credentials, because like I said, I wasn't quite sure whether he was an actual professor or whether he did these seminar things. I wasn't sure, but I remember this was like January, February, March of 2024. So it's been over a year now. When I looked into him and I actually read the study that was linked in his initial piece, and then I really actually read the study, I was like, this isn't saying anything that he's saying it says. And it's amazing how much they just rely on people never actually fact-checking them whatsoever, right? History Speaks, Matthew and I have gone back and forth about, and Matthew, God bless him, I love him, he writes the longest threads you have ever read in your entire life.
That's not your thing.
I love him. I do. I love him. He's so sweet, but he is very long-winded, and it is very hard.
He's not that long-winded. There are people who are more.
There are some, but normally it's just Michael Tracy just droning on and on and on, trying to keep me from talking so that I end up screaming like a crazy woman. Sorry, Tony doesn't get that joke, but.
Well, it's an inside one, kind of.
I know. But so that was from Sean, and I agree that John Spencer is a charlatan and he is full of shit. Okay? And so let me see. And then we've already talked about the IDF is bombing versus why is the IDF bombing versus invading the tunnels? Why do you think that is, Tony?
So the bombing campaign, so a carefully, strategically applied bombing campaign with a very specific military objective is oftentimes utilized.
Right.
Indiscriminate carpet bombing is not an acceptable tactic.
No.
So why they're bombing instead of going into the tunnels? Well, subterranean warfare, tunnels, caves, large sewer systems, subterranean warfare is extremely costly in terms of resources and manpower and lives. It's deadly. Israel does not have the capability to conduct subterranean warfare. The United States even struggles with it.
Yeah.
Very good militaries, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, all of our soft. Subterranean warfare is very, very difficult. They do not have the capability nor the capacity to conduct subterranean warfare on the scale that it would need to be conducted. Are there tunnels underneath Gaza? Yes, there are. Some of them are very complex. For them to go into an urban warfare in subterranean would cost so many deaths because they just don't have the capability. They would be throwing bodies into the meat grinder. Yeah. The Israeli population wouldn't stand for it.
Right.
So they're going to bomb. They will not bypass tunnel systems, but they will attempt to find other ways to destroy or dismantle or make them unusable. And there's going to be a lot of continued bombing. Dropping bombs is the way in which this war has been fought. I'm telling you. And then for this Spencer fellow, he does have experience in urban warfare. He did fight in Iraq, sure. But I have 3 times, 4 times as much experience as he does, and also from soft and subterranean warfare. And for him to say that the IDF aren't doing anything wrong, then I question his motives. I question his experience then. I mean, there's no doubt that he had experience, but not all experiences are the same. Not all experiences are alike in terms of what you actually experience and what you actually know. If I go skydiving one time, that doesn't make me an expert skydiver. That doesn't mean that I can go start teaching it. So just because he's been to war one time and he saw it as a lieutenant, and then throughout the rest of his career talked about it.
Right.
So they will bypass the tunnels because subterranean warfare is very complex. It is very difficult. You have to consider communication. You have to consider your ability to maneuver. You have to consider the enemy situation. It's very costly. And the IDF will not do it. They will bomb, bomb, bomb. The entire campaign from the Netzarim corridor north to Erez, Operation Gideon's Chariots 2, they're going to drop more bombs during this part of the campaign than they've done throughout the entire campaign thus far. Trust me.
That is so hard to even imagine for us.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I'm certainly not any expert on warfare or strategy by any means, but again, you have to think about invasion, and I do think that Hamas has prepared for this. I think they have been preparing for this, obviously, for decades, but the other problem, and I have said this from the beginning, is when you take everything away from people, everything, and they have destroyed absolutely everything. What do you leave people with, right? And so you have these constant reinforcements. And then you have the IDF on the other side. So they're going to send men in. Are they going to send them? No, because obviously in Gaza, they will have more reinforcements because the people don't have anything to lose by any means.
So, I recall, and I think, because I was just... because I side with typically giving people the benefit of the doubt and respecting their perspectives. Even if their perspective or what they say or what their position isn't in agreement with me, I still try to do what I can to respect their perspective. And so with this Spencer fellow, because obviously he has a platform and he speaks and he does have credibility in terms of his rank and his service. Me. Oh, he did?
He blocked me preemptively.
That's so cowardice. That is so.
I never even talked to him.
But what I'm saying here is that he, so he. I would like to ask him, have you been to Gaza? I know the answer.
He has
when?
Been with the IDF.
Into Gaza or on the outskirts?
Into Gaza. I believe he was part of the crew that went in after Yahya Sinwar was killed.
Oh, okay. How long was he there?
They go in for like 3 hours and then.
Yeah, that's nothing. And so he went into Gaza. I would really like to ask how. So the IDF won't let media or Western media or reporters or fucking humanitarian aid in, but they let
Their propaganda.
They let Pinocchio in with his little IDF with his podcast. Bullshit. Right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so one thing I'll say is that he was in. He claims to have fought later in 2008 in the Battle of Sadr City. So I went into Sadr City in 2006 when we first went in, and there were plans on the table to let's just bomb. Artillery, mortars, and just hit all over Sadr City before we go in, softening the target, if you will, right. or preparation prep the objective with fires, and that was ultimately kiboshed. No, because that would put too many civilians at risk. In Sadr City, they had a standing army, the Jaish al-Mahdi, the army under Mahdi, the cleric. They had a standing army. And we were going in there, and the amount of lives that we would have lost, calculable. And sure enough, we went in on the ground, and we lost a lot of American lives.
Yes, we did.
But we did everything we could. And I know because I was there for the entire thing. Yep. My very first combat deployment thing about this, you're married to a military, you were a former military spouse. How long? What do you think of as a long deployment? A long one?
18 months.
Yeah.
That's
So, yeah, my very first deployment to Iraq as a platoon leader was 19 months. It was during the extension, the surge.
Wow.
Yeah, so the surge 2007, and they went door to door.
So in Sadr City, we were going street to street,
that's
door to door,
long, by the way, guys.
block to block,
very long.
fighting, and it was violent, and we lost a lot of American lives at the expense of protecting the civilian population. So anybody, any military practitioner who's been to war that tells me that, yeah, war is hell and civilians and children and women die, yeah, but we take every effort to minimize that, or in certain cases to completely mitigate it altogether if we can. I don't know what army these men served in or what units they served in, but the United States Army that I served in and the infantry battalions and infantry platoons and special forces groups that I was in, we always took extraordinary measure to ensure the safeguarding and protection of the civilian population. Always, without exception. So when Matt Tardio talks about how he had to kill a kid, kill a child because they were their threat, he should be in Leavenworth. Yes. For these people that talk about indiscriminate bombing and it's okay, they should go to Leavenworth.
Yes, they should. And that's something that has really frustrated me because I know the sacrifice. I brought up Brett Walden, one of the horsemen. He was killed in 2005 in a roadside bomb. My ex-husband was the medic on their team. He was the 18 Delta on their team. He held him in his arms. And so I know the sacrifices that have been made by American servicemen to do the right thing, to abide by international law. And I understand that, no, we haven't always been perfect. Of course not, and I don't excuse those things, but to compare it to just carpet bombing and just utter annihilation and to pretend like they are one and the same, I think it is a spit in the face to the American families who have sacrificed so much, and to American values. Everything that Israel stands for is antithetical to American values, to American founding principles, to the things that we hold dear. I will never forgive the politicians who have stood by for the last 22 months as everything that we have ever worked for, everything we say that we stand for, as they have literally sacrificed it on the altar of their financial campaigns, of their political campaigns, or some kind of just psychotic cult that they are in, whatever it may be. I will never forgive these people for what they have done. They have drug our country through the mud, and they have really spit in the face of the sacrifices made by the American military and American military families.
Yes, and when people on platforms or people espouse comparison to what the IDF are doing and saying that we did it too, no, that's not true.
No, we did not.
And also, even if we did, like, two wrongs don't make a right. That's not like an
to that point too.
For why
to that and yes, that's the other part of it, to where even if we did, it's not like it's like if an officer pulls you over, were you speeding? Yeah, but I mean that guy was speeding too. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't like you're still getting a ticket. You still broke the law. Maybe I'll catch up to that guy later. I don't know. But you just admitted to it. So to say, yeah, we do it, but I mean, they did it too. And that's my fear. What I fear for the American people, for the United States as a diplomatic, economic power in this world, what I fear for the United States right now is that most of the world has already come to the point of condemnation of what Israel has done in Gaza, to the point to where Germany stopped shipping munitions and weapons. France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, all five big players in the G7 have all come forward to say they will recognize Palestine's statehood at the UN convention in September, at the UN General Assembly. Well, that doesn't necessarily move the needle in terms of what actually happens on the ground, but it makes a statement that the world is condemning what Israel is doing. And right now, the United States We are their bedfellow. We are in the car. We are on the bus to Abilene. If you know that old analogy, we are on the bus and the IDF are driving it. And we are going along wittingly and complicit in what's going on. And when the world condemns, I'm telling you, like, I cannot express this enough. I hate to say it, that in days from now, I'm going to be saying, I told you so. I told you so. And I hate it that that's the fact, is that as more images and the truth comes out from northern Gaza of the magnitude of the starvation and the desperation and the inhumanity and the annihilation and the destruction and the complete destruction of the north, and everybody that is pushed south in droves being pushed south, the world will see it and the world will condemn it. And Israel, to the two wrongs don't make a right piece, you know what Israel is going to do? Do you think Israel is going to accept responsibility? No. Israel is going to say, well, the U.S. said we could do it. Yep. In fact, they helped us. Look, yep. All the Palestinians we sent south to these villages that died along the way or died of starvation, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation doesn't have the capability. They don't have the food to feed all these people. If it's left to the GHF, thousands will die. Regardless of how good intentioned GHF claims to be, they don't have the ability to do it. And thousands will die at the hands of the GHF. And Israel is going to say, oh, don't blame us. This was, look,
well,
America did it.
They'll say it's Hamas's fault. Like, as though there's no causation.
Well, once they push everybody south and there is no Hamas, that's going to be pretty hard to blame it on Hamas.
Oh, here's the thing we've learned: everyone is Hamas, okay? Yeah. And they've already laid the groundwork for that. Everyone is
Hamas. Yeah.
And that's why, again,
if you're 5 years old, you could be Hamas.
Well, they do say that.
Yes.
We.
Laura Loomer certainly does.
But Tony, it was so great to have you.
Thank you so much, Tony.
We want to have you back again. I already want to have you back again.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us so much of your time, and please thank Allison, your wife.
And then please pass the word, with the online smearing in terms of pulling out, like, what I think would be a valuable conversation from Matt Tardio, Chase Hill, this Nick guy, and what they do using their platform is, let's have a substantial conversation. Let's have a real conversation about what's going on with the starvation. Like, if you think there's no starvation, let's talk about that. Bring your evidence. But instead, they can't argue that. So they choose to do things like, to me. So basically what I want everybody out there listening to hear is that, according to Matt Tardio, Chase Hill, and Nick Nachos and Cheese, or whatever his name is, their premise is, well, if you've ever been divorced, you can't be trusted. Matt Tardio's been divorced and his wife beat him up. So if you've ever been divorced, you can't be trusted. So is it true that in my history of life of 17 years of marriage, mind you, both of us in the military, both of us active duty, both of us deploying, that at a point we were considering separation? I want everybody to, this, Mel, in the state of North Carolina, if a married couple wishes to divorce, North Carolina is a no-fault state. Yep. There is no fault in the marriage, and you must be separated for a year.
1 year.
One full year. Must. Mm-hmm. And for people out there that say, well, if you really wanted to get a divorce, you would just say you did. It's pretty damn hard when you're both active duty military and your DEERS records reflect the same address. You can't lie about it. So separation for a year. In that time, the reason North Carolina does that is that so couples can think about and reflect on their separation, because North Carolina supports marriage and the nuclear family, believe it or not. So in that time, when the things that my wife addressed and the things that I had addressed, did we think about our marriage and our lives and about our son and our family and everything else? Of course we did. So if you want to dig into my history with my wife and I, and then say, oh, well, look, they were thinking about, at one point in their lives, they were separated, and this and that, because we were never separated. When we entered that separation, it didn't go into effect It didn't happen. When we
And
separated,
also,
my wife then went to a treatment center, and I took my son to see her every day. And in that time, through her therapy and mine, did we come to a point to where we felt that, yeah, we do want to be a family, and we do want to be together. So for anybody out there that wants to knock that, I say, go F yourself, because my wife and I are still married 17 years later, going strong. And for anybody out there that wants to throw shade on it, I don't care. If the Mossad and the IDF want to pull up my birth certificate and say that, because I was born too close to the southern border in Texas, I might be Mexican, whatever.
It's extremely laudable.
We met your wife. She's a sweetheart. And I am here. You know me. I'm like ready to fight all of these people.
They're cowards.
I mean,
they are cowards.
It's ridiculous that you're very private marital. You shouldn't have to. Very personal things. We all have no.
Well, they did it because it's classic blackmail. Yes. They can't get me fired from anywhere. That my money, my income is untouchable. They can't. Nothing can ever take away my VA because I'm 100% totally and permanently disabled. Nothing can take that away. My retirement that I earned from the federal government, nothing can ever take that away. And my wife and I both get it. So they can't get me fired. So what do they want to do? They want to blackmail me, and they're like, oh, if you don't stop talking, we're going to say this about you. Okay, go ahead. Wait till they find the high school yearbook picture with me in jorts with a mullet. I mean, then it's really going to be out there.
I was going to say, if this is the best they can come up with,
they already came out with I was thinking earlier, they already came out with the big guns. Okay? Because
they came out with everything they had, and it's stupid.
Don't take this personally, Tony, but again, I've become I'm super even protective of Palestinians, that I'm like, if anybody is going to harm them or harm the cause, I'm going to come after you. So I looked into you. I looked for everything I can find. I used every resource I had. I found this one thing, and then it was very understandable, right? And so again, I know they came out with the biggest guns they had.
Well, just to everyone out there to make it clear, let's just use logic for a minute. The incident that they're putting out there saying, which is fake, about 2021, if I had been charged or accused of domestic violence, or had been, domestic violence type situation, or any of that was true, how would I have been able to stay in the Army for 4.5 more years as a lieutenant colonel and move into a staff position responsible for the U.S. Special Operations Command weapons program, and be in charge of the things that I was in charge of, and be 4 more years in the Army, and be coming up forward for my promotion list, or any of those things? How? But on top of that, just this past December, every 5 years, when you have a top secret clearance, every 5 years you get it's called a continuous review investigation. All of that's known. If any of that was true, how would I have been granted a top secret with access to secret compartmentalized information clearance, of which I still possess active?
And if it was so bad,
what they say doesn't make sense.
No, and also if it was so bad, then they shouldn't have granted you that. Then they're letting people work there who should not be working there. So
that's another great point. To where, wait a minute, I thought you said GHF and UG Solutions that you did extensive background checks. Well, if you did, why did you hire me?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not true. It doesn't exist. Because the last time I checked, 2 married couples who were thinking of separating perhaps, and maybe a divorce, isn't a threat to security.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure everyone who's been married for more than a decade probably at some point has some marital issue.
The people that are pulling out my personal lives themselves have been divorced because they couldn't handle their marriages. It's really?
It's so I'm so sorry you even have to talk about
I
this.
know,
It's
It's laughable. In fact, what I would say to Tardio and to at GBNT Naptime, Chase Hill, and whoever else, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because you've once again shown me what matters in life. This has only made our marriage even stronger. Like, we laugh about it. Like, we joke. Like, we have an inside joke now that if something stupid happens, we call it, well, that's retardio. So thank you for making my life better and making my relationship with my wife even closer. Thank you.
And
You've shown your true colors.
I want everyone to know that Allison came on to say hi to us earlier,
Yes.
you know, and we thanked her, and she is just so sweet, and she was like, thank you for having him on, and I get the feeling she just really wants to get the message out. She doesn't care about the drama at all.
Well, you know, think she is the moral force and the conscience, my Jiminy Cricket,
no offense,
Jiminy
but
Cricket,
you
if
can
you will,
tell.
that said,
she's so sweet. She was so sweet. Yeah.
You must like she is a force of nature, and she doesn't F around. Like, she looks like she's super sweet and kind. Like, like,
well,
don't want to get on the wrong side. She is a
Mm-hmm.
fierce warrior, and she said to me, because I was telling her about Amir and about the situation and everything. She knew about these things because I communicated with her daily. When I came home, I said, like, I feel like I have to make these things known, and she said, you do. And you have to do it on the record. You have to do it. No, you have to put your foot up front. You have to go into the arena. You have to be the man in the arena. If not, you're just a coward like the rest of them. And I was like, damn.
Well, your wife is an incredible woman, and thank you, Allison, and thank you.
So
Tony.
these people out there that want to knock her and call her horrible names, F off.
Me.
Yeah.
No, I am like ready to go to war with them, but I've already beaten them because they're actually incredibly stupid, unbelievably stupid. And so, but it has been 2 hours, and we have to go. I have to make dinner.
I do too.
Which is like, I'm getting text
Me too.
messages.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
it's
know
almost
you
6.
actually
I
have
gotta
to
go.
go.
I'll
early
have
too.
to make
Yeah.
dinner.
So
thank you so much,
for
Tony,
joining
and
us.
please give our thanks to Allison for giving you.
Yeah.
Whenever I do
so
stuff
much
on the grill, Allison always makes fun of me because she said that's not cooking, and I was like, come on. I mean, technically it's cooking. We all have our strengths.
It's cooking. I'll give it to
Yeah,
her. There's
you
more
have to,
cooking
like-
that goes on in the kitchen, but yeah.
Sometimes I have to slap myself for how lucky and how blessed I am that I have a wonderful wife and a wonderful family and children and all the blessings I have in my life, that through all the things I've been with. And like, if the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation thinks they're going to scare me by smearing me online, I've been shot before. Like, bring it. I don't care. I don't care. Like, it's laughable.
Thank you for your courage.
But thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and let's all stay in touch.
I know
For
somebody's twin mama says we ride it Dawn Allison, and that's right, because I'm telling you, I'm like ready to go. So thank you. But hang on for just a second when we stop, and it's got to upload real quick. Okay, bye guys. We'll see you soon.